Hello, everyone. I hope you're ready to go. For those of you on audio only or vision impaired, I have long, wavy red hair and I'm wearing a black top. If you haven't heard about Dr. Galley's channel or seen the videos about her background, such as at CES, be sure to check them out. In fact, the bios are all available in the event or video description. We do have one exciting update. Dr. Galley was recently awarded her 9th patent. Now, without further ado, TBW's Chief of Research and now 9-time patent holder, Dr. Doreen Galley. Doreen.
Thank you, Heather, for that amazing introduction. Greetings from fabulous Las Vegas. For anyone attending audio only or has a vision disability, I have long, dark blonde, curly hair. I'm wearing a red collared shirt with small pinstripes. Behind me, I have a wall of framed certificates, a few of my degrees and patents, copies of my books, including the Chinese edition of Distributed Computing and Galley's Key to Success. Approximately 16% of the world population is disabled, contributing to 20% of website visitors. 1.3 billion people around the world live with disabilities, controlling over $8 trillion of disposable income. Despite that, 96.3% of home pages fail accessibility standardized tests. Welcome to Industry Whispers, Ask Me Anything with Victoria Essner, research code TBW 2082. Thank you to all that registered and submitted questions. As we like to say, the answer is always in the whispers. So let's turn our attention to our honored guest, international best-selling author, Victoria Essner, and welcome. Thank you for being here. And I always remind people that anyone is just one accident or stroke away from requiring accessibility tech. So perhaps before we dive in, I thought it might be good to provide some context, as you were not born legally blind, were you?
No, I was not. I had a childhood traumatic accident when I was 9 years old, and it truly was a blessing in disguise.
So could you share the moment that first sparked your passion for assistive technology?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Doreen Galley, and for all those listening in through audio and my friends visually impaired or blind. I am in a baby blue flowery dress. I have long black hair. Behind me is my favorite blue wall. As you all know, blue is my thing, with my bookshelf, Freedom, my book from Tech Frustration to Freedoms on it, along with other important books and a wonderful wedding picture of my sweet husband. We celebrated 30 years last year, and my framed certificates on the wall. And to jump right into that question, I thank you. Absolutely. My passion actually really began with a homemade keyboard chart crafted by my sweet husband. At the time, yes, I was legally blind still, raising 2 children, working full time, and I needed to learn how to type without seeing the keys. My husband, he's wonderful, always my biggest supporter, created a large poster board, the largest poster board he could find, and it mapped out the keyboard for me. I studied it and practiced it day and night with my kids, usually playing nearby and definitely not quietly. Dinner on the stove, many moving parts, as those of you raising teens do know. There's many moving parts. But that simple chart unlocked something so powerful for me. It wasn't just about learning how to type. It was my realization that with the right tools, a little bit of guidance, I can do more and be more independent. And the blessing helped so many others do the same. That was the spark. And it became my mission to help others overcome those tech challenges and build confidence. Thank you.
Knowing which key is where. I don't even think that occurred to me that actually would have to be the first step is learning the keyboard itself before you could even hope to navigate any application. Fascinating. So what was the biggest challenge you faced early in your career?
One of the biggest challenges early on was overcoming the fear that I wasn't tech savvy enough. Yeah, friends, you heard that from me. To be teaching others, especially, I couldn't see the screen myself. I often would question myself, and how in the world can I teach someone sighted or low vision to use a computer? And will they trust me? I'm legally blind. And in those days, yeah, of course, when dinosaurs walked on the planet, assistive technology wasn't mainstreamed. Um, for you young ones, there was no manuals, no YouTube videos, um, no streaming, anything on the web to assist. I had to figure it out, teach learning keystrokes, sound cues, and honestly, just sheer persistence. I would create so many of my own systems, and believe it or not, they worked. And it was so easy to teach as an educator because I do have 2 degrees in education. What got me through it is that deep belief that those individuals I'm serving, they deserve someone who understood their frustration. It's hard when you're in that moment to walk through that moment, but to do it with someone who's same like you, it does soften it some. So they knew I walked the road. I didn't have all the answers, and I knew that, but I was willing to figure it out. I figured it out with them, and that was the key.
Nothing like a tough road to develop some grit and resiliency. Was there a specific
Yes.
event or experience that made you realize the true impact of accessibility?
Oh, yes. There's a moment I'll never forget at all. Early on, I worked with a man he recently he lost almost all of his vision, but he was the coach for his son's baseball team. He was absolutely devastated. He said, I have to give this all up. I just can't. I can't disappoint my son. With tears streaming down, he felt just lost. But he didn't want to lose that joy of being there with his son. Using some of the basic reading, so the screen reading skills that you have to develop, and he already developed them with me. We practiced them, and I showed him just how to create a simple spreadsheet, just a simple one, and said, okay, we're going to track all of the players' names and record the stats from each game. He goes, I can do that? You can. And it lifted his spirits. I watched his transformation, but something so beautiful happened that was beyond my thought. The entire team rallied behind him. Not just the players, but the parents. They all wanted to help coach. And that shared effort brought the whole team so close. And it taught me something that I've seen over and over, but accessibility isn't just about using the technology. It's truly about staying connected. That's what it's all about. We want to stay connected and be part of its amazing transformation. Thank you.
The amazing wisdom you shared in that answer wasn't just about that player, but I think in general that when you take a step back and focus on what you can do as opposed to what you can't do, that anyone can always find some way to keep moving forward. And so I think that was great wisdom in general, not just for those dealing with accessibility issues. So I appreciate that pearl of wisdom. Great story.
Absolutely. And if I could add to that, everyone who knows me knows I am the can-do person. I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk, because you can do it.
Amazingly inspirational. So diving into career and milestones. Over your 30-year journey, What has been the most rewarding aspect of your work?
The most rewarding part of my journey, it's been witnessing the quiet, but I would say so powerful moments when someone begins to believe in themselves, whether they're ready to send that first email. Like, just imagine sending your very first email totally blind, using voiceover. It's incredible, the transformation. Or a senior getting that confidence up to send a text message, what? To the grandchild. 90 years old, he sent his first text message, and he goes, I can't believe I did that. A caregiver, they're discovering how can tech make their daily routines easier, but not just for them, but for the person they're caring for, their loved one. It's in those moments where, like, I see people light up. I always say it's not really truly about mastering the technology. It's about reclaiming that independence, the dignity, the hope. It's to be part of that process and watch someone go from totally frustrated and overwhelmed, which I've been there, to empowered and capable. There's nothing more rewarding than that.
That's unbelievable. I think every tech user, even the most expert users, have been frustrated with tech. When you take out the ability to visually navigate a tech, one could only imagine. And I know this from when we worked together and I tried to help you launch the YouTube video. And you went through the menus, you went through the, it's called the menus and it's called the drop downs. One of them had 20 options.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them had 20 options, one of them had 4 options, but nothing that popped up in the technology told you where the next button was. And we had to use what part of the screen and massive wavy on your 16 screen to maybe see the movement so you could find the button to hit next to launch a YouTube video. So even if you have the tech to translate, a lot of the applications aren't even using the accessibility tech in such a way to make it truly accessible. So the average user gets frustrated with tech. When you add on that whole extra layer, I think you redefine how patience is a virtue. Definitely give you props. So how have technology advancements shaped the way for assistive technology tools, how they're designed?
Wow. Over the past few decades, I have seen such a powerful shift in how the actual assistive technology tools are designed. In the early days, accessibility almost always felt like an afterthought. Something added if there's time or if there's budget. But now more and more companies are beginning to understand accessibility isn't a feature, it's a foundation. Tools like VoiceOver, Zoom, and screen magnifiers, they're built right into the devices, not tacked on later. That is a huge leap forward, like major. And another change is assistive technology. It's becoming more user-friendly. Instead of we need a computer science degree to figure it out, that's not really happening now. Many of the tools are focusing on the simplicity and ease of use. And I think it has a lot to do with how many individuals use the technology. So they're trying to make it simpler, and we are getting that fringe benefit. So that's very important, but very important for the beginners. But I say true progress in accessibility, it happens when tools are designed for the people that need them, not just for them. We have a long way to go, definitely, but I am so encouraged by the direction we're heading. Thank you.
I know one of the things I appreciated with the, disclosure, obviously had a tenure at Microsoft, and all of the Microsoft platforms under review, there's a pull down that says check accessibility. And I wish all tools had that, because it empowers me to not use just the built-in editor to make sure that my documents are well written and everything, but it can also run the accessibility check to make sure that it will work with the tech, which I find empowering, at least to make sure I'm creating something. I wish more of the tools had that built-in check button, or just by default only created things that would work with the technology even better. So it's great to hear that some of the platforms are coming with it built in, and the person using it doesn't have to go through an extra phase. Have there been, and
But to touch on that, to believe it or not, if they did it from the beginning, it's more cost efficient to just do it from the beginning.
no different than security. Yep. Or safety features. I always use the example with safety and security. If you took a 68 Mustang and you tried to make it 2025 safety and highway protocols, with the airbags and everything else like that, and you added them on to the 68 Mustang, you'd have one ugly car. You wouldn't really be able to stuff them in. You have to go from the ground up. And accessibility is right there with safety, and security is something that should be foundational.
Absolutely.
Have you had any unexpected lessons that you've learned along the way?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest unexpected lesson I've learned, progress doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Not at all. I've had students that struggled for weeks with the most basic gesture or keystroke. And then one day, something just clicks for them. And watching that moment of breakthrough and transformation for them, it didn't come from my perfect instruction or the latest tech. It actually came from patience, persistence, and ensuring them that it's okay to give themselves grace. I also learned that never, ever underestimate the emotional side of the journey. Tech training, it's rarely about technology. It's about fear, confidence, and, believe it or not, self-worth. I personally had to grow. I grew just as much in empathy and encouragement as I have in the technical skills. So perhaps the way I look at it, one of the most beautiful lessons is sometimes the teacher becomes the student.
The teacher becomes the student. I think that's pretty common. Yeah, absolutely. It's just like whenever you're helping and giving to someone, the rewards are so great. So I'm glad you've been able to enjoy that as part of your journey, and it's fantastic you're able to bring independence to so many people. Moving into personal reflections and challenges. Can you recall a time when a project didn't go as planned, and how did you navigate it?
Oh, just one? Yes.
That's an everyday occurrence.
Yeah, so many of them, but one for me that stands out is when I was teaching a woman. She recently lost her vision due to glaucoma, and she wasn't a youngin, and she had a very, very strong attachment to that handwritten personal planner. Like, she did not want to give up this handwritten planner that she could not see at all, but she did not want to give it up and give up that way she does it. I came in ready. Digital tools, apps, just a plan, but I didn't account how deeply she personally was tied to that. That sense of independence, that sense of identity of this handwritten planner. She didn't want a new tool. She just wanted me or someone to understand the grief she was going through. I paused, I listened, and I let her tell me. Tell me about that paper planner. Tell me what you see when you're using it. What do you do? How does it work for you? And slowly we developed a plan, a digital plan, weaving it in that she was comfortable with. It took a lot more time. You can't just put a time on their progress. You have to be patient and work with them through the process. And it worked because it was built with her, not just handed to her. We're going to do it this way. But that experience stays with me. And it reminds me that assistive technology is personal. It's never, ever, hear me guys, never, ever one size fits all. The best solutions come from listening first and have the right heart and mindset in what you're doing and why.
Your student was very fortunate to have you as a trainer.
Thank you.
And I can definitely understand, and it's easy to understand that doing things anywhere and everywhere is very difficult when your whole life suddenly changes, which is frequently how people join the community. And you're right, they're dealing with all the challenges in life, not just getting to send an email or to know what's on the page or use their trainer, because it is such a drastic difference, the before and after, and the change in the life. So it's wonderful you're helping them navigate that difficult time.
Thank you.
What keeps you motivated to continue advocating for accessibility? I'm thinking every win.
What keeps me motivated and going is someone out there is feeling lost. They're frustrated, they're afraid, and I might be that voice that will help them, truly help them take that next step. Because I personally lived through that overwhelmed. As you know, I know what it's like not knowing where to start. You're who can really help me with what I'm going through. You know, that technology, it's not supposed to be a wall. It's supposed to be a bridge. You know, it's so beautiful when it's a bridge. But I also know what's on the other side of the wall. That confidence, the connection, the freedom. And as you know, Doreen, I have been the full-time caregiver for my sweet husband. And his medical journey has been long. And you want to know more, just schedule to meet with me. Caregivers listening, I'll share confidentially. But I use accessible tools every single day, not just for my vision and my hearing needs, but as a caregiver, I need to read the medication labels. They have to be 100% accurate, not just, oh, it's okay this time. No, not at all. Scheduling the appointments. Oh, I'm sorry, I messed up. You're going to get your loved one in whatever mode of transportation, and my loved one, my sweet honey, has numerous conditions before his situation now on hospice. Getting him out of this house in a wheelchair to the chairlift, downstairs in a wheelchair into the car, and you get to the doctor's appointment and go, oh, your appointment's tomorrow. We can't see you today. The doctor's not in. We can't have that. We need accessible technology, but to have the home automation where even though my sweet honey cannot even feed himself, he can talk to the Google Nest and say, hey, Google, show me the kitchen. Then he can watch me preparing supper if he doesn't see me, or talk to me over an accessible baby monitor. The ability to turn on and off the lights when he wants to, even though he cannot use his hands. It's incredible.
It's huge. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And I know I've shared this with you before. Yeah, because my one of my on my running team in high school, Christine, had a disease that she went her senior year in spring from being fully vision capable to requiring Braille when she went to get her college degree in fall. And so that's one of the things that brought me to accessible tech. And it's one of the things that when I'm doing the review document, and of course now I think of Vicki as well, but I always think, I want to make sure that if she ever looked at anything, obviously lost contact from high school, but I always think of Christine and saying, Christine should be able to come here and work and read these documents and navigate them. And so anytime you can make it personal, or as you get older and your eyes go, you're like, pretty soon this might be for me. It's terrible, but whatever we can do to open the door so that everyone can be as independent as they like is always a good thing. Is there someone who influenced your journey, or who mentored you?
Before we hop on to that next question, I'll share that having the accessible blood pressure cup, the pulse up, the all talking thermometers, being able to record his stats as needed and have accurate information for the doctors and nurses. That's incredible. It's not just a theory for me, it is real life. I advocate
Life and death.
I believe, this accessibility is a lifeline, and everyone, absolutely everyone, deserves access to the tools that help them thrive, not just survive. Thank you.
Should give a big thank you to everyone that takes the time to make their tools accessible.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely. I did the clap, but I also did the American Sign Language, which you wouldn't see applause. Yeah. This is the applause for anyone who has auditory capability. So is there someone that influenced or mentored you? Because you mentored so many people. So I was wondering if someone mentored you or influenced you.
Yes. What an absolute blessing to have this experience early on in my training, like very early on in my training. I met someone who totally influenced that journey. His name was Rod. He was not only blind, he was also deaf. And when we were introduced, a family member was serving as his interpreter. And I watched, completely mesmerized, just absolutely. Her hand was tucked into his hand and moving at lightning speed. I was mesmerized. I have never, ever seen anything like that. And it was tactile finger spelling. I was absolutely captivated. And it smiles. Every time I think of him, I smile, because I stopped in mid-sentence and suddenly realized they stopped too. I unintentionally paused the conversation in that, because I'm mesmerized. Well, hello, you need to be talking. But in that quiet moment, I felt something shift in me. I looked at Rod and I asked, I was a little timid, and I said, Rod, may I learn this so I can speak with you myself next time? He leaned in and smiled and said, yes. I had tears. And from that moment, I was determined to learn. I only had 4 days because my next appointment was in 5 days. And I practiced nonstop, driving my husband and kids crazy. I said, okay, put your hand, come on. This is the A, this is the B, this is the C. And just, if you imagine, this is all we're doing for 4 days until I master it. When I returned in front of him, I was able to talk to Rod directly. Yeah, I was slow. I'm sure he dozed off in between my letters, but I was doing it. That experience taught me that accessibility isn't just about the tools, it's about relationships. It's about being willing to step into someone else's world so they don't always have to come into yours. And what a remarkable blessing, because I'm fluent with finger spelling, and it's so important. I am blessed to be a trainer for the I Can Connect program that Helen Keller has, and it's sponsored by the FCC. I can't say, it was at least 8 years now. I'm able to meet as needed with individuals that have the combination loss. And if you imagine not being able to communicate, they have an emergency, fire, any doorbell, if they don't have the right processes to answer the door, or whatever it might be. they need a way to distant communicate, and that's what the program's all about. If you want more information, please, guys, no matter what state you're in, reach out to me. It's the I Can Connect program.
That's got to be a tough combination, because even the whole language of sign language, because I know my alphabet and I know some symbols. Chrissy in fourth grade was deaf, my girlfriend. And I know my alphabet, but he can't even use the whole sign language because of the dual disability. So everything literally has to be spelled out, which I hope you're a good speller.
or you become one quite quick. Trust me.
Right, absolutely. There's no autocorrect in signing.
No, and time flies. I've probably been a trainer with the program for 10 years, and
that's fantastic.
Such a blessing. I am hearing impaired and do wear hearing aids as well.
Interesting. So from writing tech frustration to freedom, let's dive into those questions. So what led you to write the book? Was it a long time goal or was it spontaneous?
Oh, the truth is, I had a desire to write books since I was a little girl. Before I lost my usable vision, before 9, and at 9 to 17, I was gradually losing it, but no one really knew. I fell in love with reading. You know that kind of reading when you pick up a book and you read it from the back, and you fall in love with the story and you cannot put that book down. I had that experience, and it is amazing. But in just middle school, I remember sitting on the floor in the library, in the corner, tucked between 2 bookshelves, reading poetry and baseball books. I loved reading all books, but I always kept going to the poetry and any book on baseball. And I had that book pressed right up to my eyes, just not even an inch from them. I knew something was changing with my sight, but I didn't want anyone to notice, because I was a victim of being bullied a lot in school. I was picked on a lot, and it's because no one realized I was legally blind, you know? It's just years later, after a teacher finally, he recognized something's wrong with my vision. My life took a totally different path. Like I already started writing. I had 3 books by the time I was 18 years old. Not fully written, but my world shifted. No regrets, so did my priorities. I devoted myself to serve others, my family, my students, all the people I was called to help. But the idea to write from tech frustration to freedom, it came much later. After years of hearing my students, they'd say, "Oh, I need a simplified guide for beginners. I need something." I just knew, okay, it's time. Let's do this. I joined a book boot camp. It's a book writing boot camp. And if you want more on that, let me know. It's just amazing. With God's guidance, I just poured all of my decades of experience, my compassion into these pages. It was both to answer your question, and just that early dream that totally in my heart, a divine assignment. It came right on time. There's no accidents, you know. This is where we need to be when we need to be there.
That's fascinating. So there's only one Vicky, and it helps you also scale better, because you can't personally help everyone as much as you'd like to. So, and it's an international bestseller in multiple categories. Great job. Great job. What was the most difficult part of putting your thoughts and experience into words?
Oh, I would say the hardest part for me, it truly wasn't the writing. It was choosing how much of my heart should I put on the page. I have personally lived through so much. Vision loss, hearing loss, caregiving, resilience, and the quiet battles that people don't see. You know, we all know that. But when you write that book, from tech frustration to freedom. You're not just listening step by step by step. You're sharing a piece. I shared a piece of myself that I wrestled with, should I include this or this personal story? Moments that, it's raw. It's real, but it's so vulnerable and so painful. But
Yeah, I was wondering if there was personal stories you debated about including, but ultimately like, yeah, I need to share that. How did that go?
I knew that the readers reading this book, they weren't looking for that perfection. They were looking for that honesty, the encouragement, like someone who understood on that practical level, who walked the walk, that knows what it's like. And to make matters, a little more challenging, I used the voiceover tools and the screen reading tools to actually complete the task. And it wasn't, as you described, that YouTube and just trying to find that one button. Let's just say formatting, editing, and organizing that structure. It took so much of my patience. But I reminded myself, I said, hey, if I'm writing this book for people who feel overwhelmed by technology, I get to model that. It can be done, and I'm so, so proud of that. To answer your question about the personal story, yeah, I hesitated to include one, but I showed a little bit about it in the beginning. It was that early struggles to learn to type as a legally blind woman, working full time, raising the two children, trying to memorize this keyboard that I really couldn't see at all. And as I shared, I'm like, and for those of you, just to remind you, my husband created this beautiful, the largest poster board he could find of a map of the keyboard for me. And yeah, I studied it with all my heart. I knew this has to be done because I want in that school. And the only way to get in it is to type 35 words a minute. And we didn't have a computer. We didn't have talking accessibility. So it was real for me. It actually showed, not just for me, that determination, that persistency, but teamwork. My husband was involved, my children were involved, and that true power of believing in yourself. And even when, like, hey, the odds are stacked against us sometimes, but, I debated whether should I include this story. It was so personal to me. And, that vulnerability, I just knew these are the stories people need to hear. Not these polished, perfect moments and we only tell them all the good stuff, but where I struggled. I really, really did struggle. But I stayed the course, guys. And I came out much stronger. And I know you can do. That's why I included that story. It was my way to say, I've been there. You are not alone. If I can do it, you can too.
If I can do it, you can too. Words of wisdom. Global accessibility awareness and future hopes. So what does Global Accessibility Awareness Day mean to you? And we are filming this and it'll be released on Global Accessibility Day, which is the third Thursday in May every year. So what does this day mean to you?
Global Accessibility Awareness Day, it's more than just a date on the calendar, guys. It shines a light on the fact that accessibility is not optional. Hey guys, hear me. Accessibility is not optional. It's essential. It's not about those extra features, but it's truly about creating that world where everyone, regardless of their abilities or not, has that opportunity. They can learn, they can work, they can connect, they can thrive. And for me personally, it's also a moment to pause. Let's reflect. How far have we came? And those built-in tools that we now have, and we're so grateful for those individuals who stepped up and they take accessibility to the heart. It means so much to me, and I thank you. I thank you on behalf of my thousands of students over the years. Please keep doing it. That awareness that is slowly growing in the workplaces and in schools, it's so important. And I think about there's so many still struggling in silence, Doreen. They are so overwhelmed with tech, they're unsure where to turn. And that is why, to me, this day matters so much. Thank you for hosting this and doing this, because education is the key. Educating, advocating, reminding the world that accessibility changes lives. And in many cases, guys, it saves them.
And interestingly, as I shared the stats and the data up front, 8 trillion market controlled by people with disabilities. And well, it's 16% of the population, there were 20% of web users. And so people with disabilities are heavier users of tech than any other segment of society. So absolutely, we must pay attention. What areas of accessibility, speaking of, still need the most improvement?
Oh, there's been real progress in accessibility, but we have some very, very important gaps to close. One major area is that digital, I'm tongue tied because it's a little bit frustrating as well, because this should already be solved, It's that digital accessibility design. Way, way, way too many of those online platforms, the apps that are being designed, and they're not even considering a screen reader user. Not at all for low vision users, or just keyboard navigation. Make everything keyboard navigable. It would be simple. Have that in mind. This accessibility must be built in. It can't be added on later. And too many times it's an afterthought. And it should be part of that blueprint from day one. Just make it part of the blueprint, guys. And another part which I want to touch on is that training and support. Many, many people, they receive tools, but they don't know how to use them. They tried, and they just get so overwhelmed. They put it on the side because they give up. They don't have somebody who's going to go ahead and take that extra patience to help them get from A to B, not just A to Z, A to B. We need more hands-on but empathetic guidance for the beginners. It's so key. And I also believe we do need to address the attitudes. True accessibility, it's not just about the tools. It's about that inclusion, the respect, believing that every single person, they deserve access to that same information, that opportunity, the dignity. When that mindset, if you think about it, when that mindset becomes the norm, the technology will follow. It'll just fit right in. So guys, call on me. I'm here for you.
I've heard of some organizations having inclusion for profitability programs, and it's a great program that every company should have, because inclusiveness statistically does increase your profitability. So if you could make one big change in the way the world approaches tech accessibility, what would it be?
Oh, if I could make one big change, it would be this. Make accessibility a shared responsibility, not a specialty. Right now, accessibility, it often falls on the shoulders of just one person, or the one department, or even the person with the disability themselves. If you think about it, all of a sudden you're newly blind and you have to fend for yourself and figure it out yourself. But that real lasting change, it happens when everyone, the designers, the developers, the HR teams, the customer service representative, they understand that accessibility, it's part of their role. We need to shift from seeing accessibility as extra, but nice to have, but understand it, guys. It's essential, just as Doreen mentioned earlier, safety, quality, security. It could easily be built into the education, the culture, or hey, how about the leadership trainings? We wouldn't be waiting for someone to advocate. We'd already be creating that inclusive spaces from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I know one of my hats, most people are familiar with my chief technology officer hat at Microsoft and my chief privacy hat. But one of the hats I wore in Azure was chief accessibility officer as well. And as a matter of process, an application cannot go past a certain preview state if it hasn't completely passed all of its tests. And it has to do with security, it has to do with standards for the platform, but it also included the accessibility checks. And so it can be done, it is done. I have firsthand witnessed it being done, but that doesn't mean this was a universal experience in all organizations I've been to. And so absolutely, that's a great observation, and that would absolutely be a huge change, is for everyone just to include it as part of. There was even a goal regarding it that every person in engineering had. So yeah, I love that. It should be included. So moving on to the closing thoughts portion. What advice would you give to someone struggling with tech accessibility?
Start small and give yourself grace. You do not have to learn everything at once. Just take that next right step. You're not behind, and you're definitely not alone. There is 100% a way forward, and you, my friend, are capable. You are capable than way more than you know. I witnessed it firsthand with hundreds of individuals. You got this.
Just take that first step.
Absolutely.
So looking back, is there anything you do differently?
Honestly,
the wisdom of looking back?
Oh, yeah. I would trust in my own voice and values sooner. For years, and again, I'm going to say, with no regrets, I put my own dreams on hold. I took care of everyone else first. If I could go back, I would remind myself that my story matters too. I do believe that everything unfolded in God's perfect timing. I'm exactly where I need to be. But know that your worth is just as important.
Trust yourself. I think that's one of the things that most human beings get later in life, regardless of the scenario. Usually by the time you hit 50s, you own it. But great advice. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. So how can individuals and organizations better contribute to accessibility efforts? Last question.
Oh, start by listening with curiosity and compassion. Definitely. Just start by listening. Please don't wait. Don't wait for someone to ask for access. Build it in from the beginning, guys. It would be so much more cost efficient. Whether you're an individual, I can't tell you how many thousands and tens of thousands of dollars I spent in the last 2 years to build my business virtual, and I cannot name one platform that's truly 100% accessible. And when you reach out, they say, "Oh, we're a small team. We don't have the budget for that." Oh, okay, we'll put that on the agenda for 2016 in our next budget planning committee. Okay, but no one offers them the money back. You individuals, schools, universities, agencies, state, federal, you have that role to play. Accessibility isn't just about compliance. It's about that care. You live in your community to be part of that. Create that space where everyone belongs. It is the right thing to do. It's the human thing to do. And I ask you, please, just do it. Call on me. We have so many ways to help you because it's the right thing and it's the human thing. And we're waiting for you to do it.
And there's a very large profitable market for doing it properly as well, if you need the business motivation. Vicki, you've been amazing. I want to go into the announcements section. This has been fantastic. For the announcements, we've covered Stephen A. Smith at NAB show, where he spoke about being the highest paid sports analyst that wasn't a professional athlete, which raises the question, where are you getting your technology advice from? Are they the equivalent of a pro athlete in technology? If not, you could probably use an upgrade. Speaking of which, if you're interested in collaborating with someone who is the equivalent of a pro athlete, we are seeking corporate sponsors. And as a point of information, we're excited to share with you, if you look at the chart, for those that can see, for those that can't, it shows on our tiny, powerful, never yet advertised YouTube channel, we have complete market share for technology, banking, finance, media, and entertainment. So we're small but mighty and cover the entire audience before we have done our promotional or anything to allow it to fully explode to its potential. So please definitely look us up. We'd love to work with your brand. Also, if you're working with an analyst firm, our seats are the same as adding on a Gartner, but instead of getting reports, which are the equivalent of large language models, you actually get research with the context of an engineer who's been there and done that at the finest levels in our largest organization. Please be sure to check for the next Industry Whispers that's going to be advertised. This has been Industry Whispers, AMA with Victoria Essner, international best-selling author. The answers are always in the whispers. Subscribe today. Have an amazing day, and thank you all for joining. Take care.